I was going to talk about the agony of defeat today because it's something that I just witnessed last night with my son and playing their final baseball game of the season. And I was caught up in how, his season came to an end, and there was a lot of endings last night. It's no more playing with these seniors, no more school ball. Now we move on to travel ball. And, one of the things that I was struck by is that there's always an opportunity to play again. And right now, while he's young, he has that opportunity to play again. And sometimes, and I was thinking about how we encourage our business owners to keep moving forward and to keep sourcing the opportunities and looking for the opportunities. And it's very much like my son's baseball career. It's very much like we move on now. 3 days later, we're going to be in travel ball season, and it doesn't stop. Right? We've only just begun. So even though it was the ending of one thing, it was the beginning of something new. And I think that's the approach that a lot of business owners struggle with sometimes is they work so hard to get to a certain point, and they get to the end of it, and it's like they don't know what's next, right? And that's when they are sometimes stuck because maybe they stopped doing networking, maybe they stopped prospecting, maybe they stopped doing all the things that led them to this because they were so concentrated on the end. And the hyperachiever kicks in, right? You always focused on the end, not the destination. And it made me think about the whole destination of things and what's included in a business owner's destination. So, we talk about networking, we talk about prospecting, we talk about selling, we talk about having meetings, we talk about doing events. There's so many different things that we do along the journey to get to the one result that we're shooting for, and that's bringing clients in. And I think it's a valuable lesson for people to understand is that when you get to that end point, don't think it's the end, it's the beginning of something else.
There you go. But that's usually the issue is, I tell people a lot with sales is like when you have an opportunity to go do your sales pitch, that person doesn't know that you didn't close the last 15 people you met with. They have no clue. Like they don't know. They think you are who you are and you represent that. And you have to bring to the table your A game every single time. So every sales call is an opportunity to start all over again because that person literally does not know much about you, what you've done in the last past months. They don't know if you're a rock star. They don't know if you suck at your thing. And this is a new opportunity. So it does allow you to start over again each time you meet somebody, each time you do a sales call, a proposal, and you have to treat it that way. You have to get excited about, hey, this is a new opportunity. But what happens is, and for most of our clients, is they used to work for somebody else, right? They have a one skill set. They have one major skill set. They have many skill sets, but most of our clients have moved into starting their own business because they had one really good skill set, and that could have either been the delivery of whatever their product or service is. It could have been the sales that they do. It could have been a special operational task that they could do, and that's what led them to say, "Hey, I can do this better than the people I'm working for." The struggle, though, is this. This is really the hardest part about building your own business is you come in with this skill set and you apply it, and that's what builds you to having a company, going from like a consultant to having a company, having a business. And when you get there, now you have all these other things that come in that you have to deal with, and you can't spend the majority of your time on that skill set that allowed you to even grow and get here. That's where people struggle is becoming a business owner. And if they don't adapt to like, hey, I still have to do the things that brought me here, but I have to either add additional time or add additional resources or people to help me with all the other tasks, then it's not going to work. You're going to plateau and you're going to get frustrated. Because let's say you were a master photographer, right? And you came in here and you had to do a little bit of sales and you started taking amazing photographs and people you were more in demand. Well, now all of a sudden you have to handle billing and you have to handle delivery and you have to handle the editing side of it and you have to handle, all your scheduling and logistics and payroll and taxes and finance. And it's like when you're doing all those things, you never had a chance to do your second skill set, which was sell people. which didn't allow you to do your main skill set, which was take photography. And this is the life of a business owner moving in on their own and then building something that they say scalable or growing. And people desire growth and scaling, but they usually don't know what it involves. And it involves either bringing in other people or letting go of the main thing that you're doing. And that's defeat for some people.
Mhm. You know, it really it's essential, absolutely essential that as a business owner, you have a growth mindset. If you go into starting any business and recognize that you are going to learn a ton of stuff and a ton of new skills and a ton of new a ton of things because of the opportunities that are going to present, then you're going to feel defeated when you haven't been able to exercise the main skill, like you said, that brought you here, because it's all about growth and learning. I think business owners' learning curves tend to be very steep when they go from like a employee status to owning their own business. And I think that's one of the hardest things for most people to adjust to, is they don't recognize that it's going to be a very steep learning curve. I don't think they recognize that you have to continuously learn. Otherwise, you're not going to be successful in what you're trying to do. And when you hit those roadblocks, when you hit some of those roadblocks, it's maybe because you stopped asking the questions, you stopped being curious about things. You made a face there. What didn't you agree with?
Well, logic would tell you you have to learn a lot of things. I agree with the growth mindset. You have to have the growth mindset, okay? And I know growth mindset is the ability to learn and be open to change and all these other things. And I can appreciate that. But you saying that as the owner of the company, I have to learn more things is why most people actually fail. So there's a great saying that the A students work for the B students and the C students own the company. And the reason that is that way is because the C students are so dumb they can't learn that they hire people who already know how to do those things. And when you have a really intellectual person, a driven, motivated person, especially someone that is a controller or an alpha, they're going to want to know how to do it all before they let anybody else do it. And what happens is then they can't do the main thing they were good at. And the reason that C students who own companies become very successful, not all the time, but many times, is because they actually know what they don't know and they go find help for that. They go find resources for that. They hire for that. They bring a vendor on. They get a new employee. They hire financial people or salespeople, or they hire the manufacturing guys or someone to find them the real estate. Whatever it is, they hire for it. And the reason they do that is because they have to get back to the only thing they're good at. Right? That's the key, is if you're only good at one thing and you drive into that, you can make money to hire people to do all the other things. And that's where people get stuck, is they want to learn every little detail. And it's like you don't need to learn that. You need to run a company.
I think that's a very valid point, and I agree. I think the C students demonstrate the willingness to recognize that they need the help and they can't do it all on their own. And that's where their growth mindset sits. It's in the hiring of other people. It's letting go, like you said before. It's embracing, I don't know what I don't know, and I need to get the people that know that. And I think when you are an alpha and a controller and you want to do everything, you struggle with letting go because you don't trust anybody but yourself. Whereas that C student does trust other people because they recognize their own limitations, and they turn their limitations into strengths by hiring the right people and putting the right people in place. So I agree with where you went there.
But you're gonna have to make a decision if you wanna own the company or you wanna do the work, right? And most of our clients did not come into this to own a company. They just had to own a company to do the work they wanted to do. And that's where they need to now all of a sudden make a transition because they have no choice. They're like, well, I'm making money doing this thing I'm really, really good at. I am the owner, so I guess I've just been self-anointed as the leader of this organization. And that's where we have to come in and show them not just how to do it, but how to do it their way. And they do have the ability to create a culture, create a company, create a methodology of doing things that is their way and will work. You don't have to follow some handbook that you learned getting your MBA. There are other ways to do it, but you have to figure out this is what I, as a leader of this organization, are going to do. And we usually have two main areas that a CEO needs to focus on, and it's revenue generation and development. The development is of your product, your process, and your people. And the revenue generation is not sales calls. It's bringing opportunities to the company to generate revenue. Okay. So that's where the most successful CEOs spend their time, in those two areas. Doesn't mean that's where you need to spend your time. You could spend your time, doing work, right? Actually, you could, if you're analyzing data for someone's SEO, you could spend your time just doing that, and you can hire someone to generate the revenue. You can hire someone to develop the product and the process and the people. So you can build your company any way you want, but that's what you're going to have to make a decision. Do you own the company, or are you the CEO? There's two major different things. And if you're going to be the CEO of your company, yes, you could still own it, but that means you're going to have like seven different jobs, two main ones, but then you're going to have to manage the people who are managing the people. You're going to have to oversee anything until you get big enough to have a C-suite team. So that is a big differentiator of deciding, like, what am I doing in my business here? Am I doing the work that I love or I'm excellent at, or am I going to build a company? And that is a very tough decision for most people to make.
Yeah, well, because a lot of people slip into that. If I don't do that, they feel like they're supposed to do all those things, right? They're supposed to be the CEO if they're the owner, and if they're not the CEO, then they see it as part of their failure, or that they don't belong here, and their imposter syndrome comes into play, right? So there's all of these internal battles that come about when they're trying to make that decision, and a lot of times your sabotaging habits get in the way, right? Your stickler gets in the way, and your controller gets in the way because you're not allowing yourself to you're not allowing yourself to see that you don't have to do it all. You're only seeing that if you don't do it, that you're failing at what you've set out to do. And a lot of business owners that just want to do the work then sometimes feel like a failure because they can't run their company. But it's because they haven't identified the right people, and because of their controller, they haven't managed that right, so that they don't trust anybody else to run their company. So there's a lot of internal battle that comes about, and it's hard for some people to admit that they are really a good number 2 rather than the number 1, right? And that's where you have to, I think that's why you and I work so well together, right? You're excellent at setting the vision and the tone and the strategy and developing the product and the process and people. And I'm very good at executing on those things. I'm a very good quote unquote number 2. But I've always in my career I raised myself to be a really good number 2 because I didn't always want to be the number 1. So when I started my own business 6 years, 7 years ago, it was like, oh, wow, I am all of that, and I was struggling with that, and then you and I came together to start this business, and it works because the 2 of us are here, and we're willing to say, "No, that's your realm, that's my realm, this is where I can be really good," and that's why it works, and I think a lot of people have to realize that you don't necessarily have to have a partner like Adam and I are partners, but you have to recognize if you are not a good number 1, then go be number 2 to somebody who's gonna be a good number 1, but you could still own that company. And it's not a failure. It's part of the success that you're creating for your company. And then also a culture that you're creating. You're creating an environment where you're saying to everybody, use what your strengths are, not what your weaknesses are, and be part of a company that emphasizes each other's strengths and surround yourself to complement the strengths with the weaknesses of everybody that's involved.
Well, and that definitely is, it's a struggle for people, and I think most of them never even consider being a number 2, right? It's never even a consideration, and we almost never advise for people to step down and hire a CEO. There are ways that you can do it yourself, but it might not be in just in title. It might be in, like, roles and responsibilities, and, like, who's gonna drive the bus, and who's gonna fill up the gas tank, and who's gonna do all these things. One of the biggest reasons that people don't make that transition is because they have a lack mindset instead of an abundance mindset about money, right? And they're like, "Hey, I finally got to this point. I'm making this money. How can I even consider giving some of my hard-earned money to some other person?" And they look at it as like they have silo of money that they've stored it up that they're going to give away to somebody else, instead of saying, hey, I'm going to invest this money to make more of it. And so many people sit in that because it's their blood, sweat, and tears on every one of those dollars that they're going to hand away. What they don't realize is if they store it all up for themselves and keep it, that there only so much. There's a capacity that you can fill that silo up to, and you'll be stuck there forever. So you're going to need help. Like there's no other way than to get help. And that is the number one struggle I see is people just scared shitless to spend money on help. And help doesn't come free. It doesn't come free. You can do it one unique way. You can get a partner, and I've partnered in almost every single business I've had. Okay, and someone told me a wonderful cliche at one point that made sense to me. They said, "Adam, would you rather have 100% of a grape or 50% of a watermelon?" And I was like, yeah, well, that kind of makes a lot of sense. And every time I partnered up and filled in the gaps of my lack or the things that I didn't enjoy doing or I didn't have a skill set around, we always turned a grape into a watermelon, meaning we had a lot more to share around the table. And that's what it's about. This is why in our club First M, we bring people together. It's not just like, hey, let's talk about what's going right, what's going wrong, and what you need help with. It's collaboration, right? It's being able to sit with someone who's in your same industry and talk best practices and share what's going on so you can grow together. And yeah, some of those people will probably end up partnering, whether it's joint work or they actually partner up or they refer clients back and forth. But that's the idea is you're going to need to look outside of you and yourself in order to build the thing that you've already built. And that is it. You've built something, you have to now build another thing. And that is a point that people don't recognize is like it's you get to a plateau, it's like a staircase. There's more stairs. You just have to step up to the next staircase.
And that's why it is so important to surround yourself with other people in similar situations. And that's one of the reasons why we have the First Time Club is so that you can learn from other people's experiences of the same thing. Like it's we hear it. Adam and I get to hear this all the time because we coach everybody and we coach a lot of the same people, right? There's no difference really between in amongst the people that we coach. And a lot of our people have these money blocks that are pre-existing money blocks where they want to hold on to everything that they make and not invest anything back into the business. And when you go to a networking event and you sit in a mastermind like First M has the mastermind component to it, the point of the mastermind is to learn from what other people have done and get new perspectives on how people see things. And when you hear another business owner, not just me and Adam saying this, but you hear somebody else say, I used to do that. And then I realized that hiring an employee is an investment back for my time and for what I need to focus on. And the difference between what makes a business owner spend the money versus not spending it is the perspective that you have about it. It's what it's an investment versus an expense. If you see it as an expense, you won't spend it. If you see it as an investment, you most likely will spend it and you will thank yourself for making that investment because it's not just an investment in your company, it's an investment in you. It's an investment in you being able to build your company. It's an investment in you getting your time back so that you don't have to do that thing that you don't want to do. It's an investment in everything that you're trying to achieve. And without those investments, you don't make more money. It's just like the stock market. You don't make the investment, you don't make more money. It just doesn't magically appear. And that's what you want. And Adam taught me this many years ago. You want your money to work for you. If you have money just sitting around and it's just sitting there and it's not working for you, you are wasting the opportunity that that money can help you to achieve. And once you listen to other people and you see that the people who have been successful have embraced that mindset of people being investments, you'll start to realize and you'll feel more comfortable about making that decision for yourself because you see so many other people have done that.
Not wrong. I'll tell you here, if you've started a business and you want to really grow, here's what I would recommend. In the first 3 to 6 months of having your business, write down everything you did to get that business. And then anything else that's needed, hire other people, right? If you're going to try to now do all these other things that come after that first 3 to 6 months, you're going to fail. You're going to need the help. And all it really takes is whatever it was in the first 3 to 6 months to bring in those clients and start generating revenue. You don't need to do anything else. You can hire to have someone do that. And then you can focus on what you're really good at, which allowed you to start that business.
100%, man. And another thing that, people are really struggling with is, so much opportunity sometimes at their fingertips that they don't know where to put their money, right? That's the other piece, right? It's either they don't see that there is opportunity, or they have so much opportunity, they want to invest in all these things, but they're not sure where to place it. And they have to decide how to prioritize that. And everybody wants to spend everywhere sometimes, and they don't take a second to look at what is the thing that's going to be the best thing for them to spend and invest in, because they have so many opportunities, and they sometimes can make a bad decision if they don't evaluate and prioritize what is the best option for them. And that creates stress, and that creates overwhelm in, I don't know where to put the money, so I'm not going to put it at all, right? So it's sometimes that they don't want to spend it because they don't see the opportunity, or they don't want to spend it because they have too much opportunity to spend it. And it becomes very confusing. And I think it's like, do I invest in this piece of equipment, or do I invest in this thing over here? And I think that tug of war, it's a lot of decisions that people have to make. And that's part of what we want people to get out of the first time mastermind experience, is how to clearly make better decisions, because you're making so many decisions. You don't want to get stuck on any one type of decision that you have to make, especially when it comes to money.
Money, 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 money.
Oh man, I
But it's
tell you.
always the problem, right? Money is always the problem for everybody. I have too much. I have too little. I'm paying taxes. I don't have enough clients. I can't hire help. I need more people. And so I don't know which ones to get. Like, it's money is always the problem of everything. It never stops, by the way. The more money you make, the more problems you've had. You've heard that a million times. What you really have to do is get to a point where you can sustain your business and then just grow the business, right? It's like I can sustain paying the bills of the business in my life. And then you have to go out there and grow your business. And it's very, very simple. Stop messing around with it. It just takes people, it just takes help to grow that business. That's all it is. You cannot do it on your own. There is a capacity to that. I don't care how valuable you are, there's a capacity to that. Some of the best people in the world, if it was just them, yeah, maybe they'll make millions, but they're going to leave billions on the table. That's the problem. So you're going to need help. Go get it.
Yep. Don't be shy. Recognize it's not a game. Business ownership is not a game for one person. That's why it's business, and a business compromises people. And if you don't go get the people, you don't get the help, then you don't grow, and you're not successful.
What
So,
true business ownership is owning your calendar. And I don't mean for your free freaking time. That's not what I mean. I mean owning your calendar so you can do the things that the business needs, not your clients, not your employees, that the business needs. That's what business ownership is. And if your calendar is dominated with nonsense tasks that you could hire somebody in it to do, then you don't own your calendar, meaning you don't own shit. The business owns you at that point. And you have to realize, do you want to be a business owner, or did you just create a very high paying job for yourself? Because that's where you can get stuck. I'm like, if you don't own that calendar, man, you own nothing.
mm, if you don't take care of that, why are you doing what you do? Because
But money solves that problem.
true.
Money solves the problem of owning your calendar. You're not, it's not a cost to hire an employee. It's an investment to buy your time back to go do the things you're excellent at. And forget the free time, guys. Forget the free time. There's no time for free time yet. Okay? And that's what a growth mindset is the word yet. There's no time for free time yet until you've hired all the people and you're making all the money and you're doing all the things necessary to have a successful business. Otherwise, Free time, wait till you hit retirement, okay? Or grow the damn business and you'll get there faster.
Yeah. Everybody wants the freedom without doing all the work.
Yeah,
That's
but the freedom that people desire comes at a cost of work, right? And it's not like you hit a certain point and you hire people and then you have free time. It's like, no, no, no. When you hire your first couple of people, you have to grow more to get back to even, right? And that's what everybody's trying to do. They're trying to be like, oh, I have enough money to pay them, and now I could take that off the top. It's like, no, that's not how it works. It's like you've gotten to a point, you're gonna go backwards in how much profitability you have, okay, by hiring these people, so then you can leapfrog over that. But too many people are like waiting until they have all the money to hire somebody. And I'm not saying go broke hiring people, but what I'm saying is when you hit it, they're like, okay, I need more people. That means you're gonna make less money until they help you to make more money. And that's the whole point of this thing, and people get stuck in that wheel. It's like, I have to
Yeah,
wait
well,
until
they
this
don't
happens."
you don't realize, every employee that you hire that's a full-time employee should generate you $200,000 worth of new revenue, that and they should pay for themselves threefold, fourfold, because if you see that, if you could realize that, and then when you actually hire somebody and you see, "Holy cow, I made $200,000 more in revenue, how did I do that?" "Oh, I hired a person." And if you just see that that is what the return is going to be on the investment, you will do that more and more and more, and you will do it over and over, and it becomes a plug and play model. You want to go make $1 million, you're going to have to hire five more people. You want to go make another 2 million, you're going to have to hire eight more people. And it's common sense. It's just the way that, and of course, you're going to optimize your resources, and some of those people are going to bring you $300,000 if they're really good resources. But that's the thing. If you are in business to grow a business and to have wealth and to take care of your life and have the life that you want, you have to make that investment in people, because people will generate you more revenue. You can't do it all on your own. If you're just by yourself, you're probably only generating between two and $300,000 a year, if that. And what I'm saying really makes a lot of sense. And Adam and I have done this over and over and over. We can literally predict how many employees a company has based on their revenue with this formula. And you need to do the same. You need to implement that formula in your business. You need to see that that is the return you're going to get on your investment. So if you want $1 million business, yeah, it's going to take 3 to 5 employees to make that happen. And until you're willing to do that, you're not going to get there. So, and there's nothing wrong with that. If you're happy making $300,000 a year in revenue and you can live your life the way you want to live your life, then great, run with that. But recognize that eventually you're going to burn yourself right out. And who's going to help you to generate the revenue when you've burnt yourself out? So you got to look at it as it's not just an investment in building the company, it's an investment in you not burning out and being able to sustain your business and your life all the way down the road.
And what this whole thing boils down to is you starting to make decisions on what you want to do in the future. You can't just let things happen to you. You can't let your business happen to you. You have to happen to your business, right? And you have to effectuate change and not let that change effectuate you. It sounds like whirly twirly, where's he going with this? But what it means is like you have to chart the course. If you don't sit down with yourself or coaches like Tom and I, or a friend or a mentor or somebody, and talk this thing out, you're going to be carried down someone else's path. And you can't let that happen. So it's decisions on what kind of business do I want to do? What are my roles and responsibilities in here? How hard do I want to work? How much money do I want to make? How much money do I need to make? What is the end game to this whole thing? If you don't have those discussions regularly with yourself or somebody else, you're going to end up in a destination you never planned on being. And yes, you may be happy, but most likely you're going to be miserable. So don't let that happen to you. Just talk it out, whether it's in a club like we have in First M, or coaching with us, or call up your friend who understands these things. That's usually the problem, is most of your friends don't understand these complexities. But you got to find someone to have this conversation with. You can certainly try doing it for yourself. But here's the problem doing it for yourself, especially for coaches and therapists and people that are in the advice game. The problem is, like, you're like a tree, you're like an apple tree. And all those apples are the advice that you give, but the apples aren't meant for you. You don't eat the apples as the apple tree. You eat the water. And if you're trying to eat your own damn apples, you don't even you can't process that. You need some outside perspective to bring into you so you can be fed, so you can grow. And for you, that's sunlight and water, pal. It ain't apples. So don't try to eat your own apples, man. You got to go out there and get that extra help, that other thing that you personally need to grow. Whew, I don't know why I'm on a rant today, but
Dude, I'm gonna call you Adam Metaphor Herd because your metaphors this week have been off the charts, man. That was a great metaphor, right? You are producing the fruit. You're not eating that fruit that you're producing. You're eating the benefits of that fruit, and you're in order to build it, you drink. I love that, man. Like that is so powerful, but that is what people really need to realize is that if that tree is gonna grow the fruit, it needs to sustain itself. It needs to have the water, and if it doesn't have the water, well, guess what? You're not getting no fruit. That's it.
yep. And it works for advice. It works for roles and responsibilities in the company. If you're the top sales guy, the apples you're giving away, you can't go ahead and then run the operations. Like you can't do that. Doesn't
Oh,
work.
man, I love it. How do you like them apples?
Ah,
All right, little Goodwill Hunting pun for the end there. Alright, but listen, we've talked a lot about First M, our, club, mastermind, and networking. If you haven't checked
nobody listens to the end. Nobody listens to the end. So let's do something funny. Let's do something fun.
you wanna do
Nobody
something
listens
fun?
to the end. You said well, as soon as you said, "All right," people hit the end button. So they're like 99% of the people who would normally listen to this podcast have already stopped listening. So now let's for those 1%ers who stuck around, let's do something nice for them.
Alright, what do
What
you
do you
wanna
want to do?
do? I don't
All
know,
right.
like
I'll tell you what. If you DM us on Instagram at atomicbusinesscoaching.com, or you go to LinkedIn, go to Adam Thomas or Tom Marino, you can find us everywhere. And if you DM us apples, we're going to give you one free session.
I like it. How do you
There you
like
go.
them apples?
There you go. Because
There it is.
nobody listens to the end. I'm guilty of it too. As soon as I hear, all right, I'm like, the episode's over. I'm done. So for those of you who like to stick around to the end, you got a little gift. Hopefully we
Yeah.
can help you out.
Hopefully, we'll see some DMs of apples. Alright,
And if not, hey,
awesome.
man, we appreciate you listening.
Alright, thanks. See you next time.